Steve, how you doing? Dennis.
Good, Dennis. How are you, mate?
Very well. Now, you won't have heard it just now, but I found some special intro music for you, and it was the original Illawarra Steelers team song, Taste of Steel.
Yeah, it was the band who did it with the Victors, because I'm actually going through my storage room at the moment, Dennis, and I actually found the cassette. So I'm familiar with it. So, yeah, I'm not sure I'm going to use it as an intro. I'm not sure I'm going to use it as an intro to White Line Fever, though, despite your suggestion.
Look, I'm not sure if I ever told you this, but I saw the Steelers play Manly, Brookvale, 1982, and I remember sneaking into the dressing sheds before first grade started, and I was surprised at the difference between the home and away facilities. For example, the rub-down tables in the visitors' sheds were old and time-weathered hardwood things, whereas the Manly ones were padded vinyl tables. I think it was all part of the pre-game psych-up. But
and strangely enough, though, now, mate, they've switched. So Manly have actually switched now to what used to be the visitors' rooms, and they're very spacious. And and the visitors' rooms are Manly's old rooms. So that's, I suppose, how things change, and the players expect to be treated better now than they did back then.
Mate, I only teach one of the three R's. You teach the three, so I better get away from rugby league and get into some rock. So, you saw Sebastian Bach in Sydney quite recently, correct?
Oh, I did on Wednesday night.
How was he?
My expectations were quite low, and I had a great night. I had a really good night. Yeah, I thought he was good. I mean, the thing with Sebastian solo is that his shows tend to have a lot of anger and angst, and they tend to be about him and his personality, and not so much about the music. And I saw him at Cat House Live in California just 5 or 6 weeks ago, and it wasn't a highlight of the day's festivities, I can tell you. So I was really surprised the other night. I think a lot of it has to do with the crowd, though. There's a lot of it might have been you. Someone said to me that our Woodstock was Guns N' Roses at Eastern Creek in 1993. Was it 93? And so many people are just so nostalgic about that and have so much affection for that era. And it was really evident on Wednesday night. It was just a great gathering, as well as Ace Frehley show at the same venue a few months ago here in Sydney.
Did he do a Rose Tattoo cover?
He did. We Can't Be Beaten. Yeah, did the whole song. I think it was part of it was part of a medley. I think I'm trying to remember, but yeah, he did Rose Tattoo, and he finished with TNT as well. So there was a lot of sort of, and is it sort of corny? That he's saying I love Australia, and I've seen him playing Canada, where he described Canada as his hometown country. So it depends. I think it depends on you. I think it's in the eye of the beholder. It's like, what mood are you in? Are you feeling cynical, or are you feeling sort of all warm and fuzzy? When you witness it.
I think I'd rather hear Rob Riley and Pete Wells cut through that one myself. But did you see Skid Row in 1990?
Did I see Skid Row in 1990 when they were here in Australia? No, I think I was out of the country. That was the first time I ever went overseas. Was early 1990. I saw Kiss for the first time in Lubbock, Texas, and then I saw it was the first show on the Hot and Shade tour, and then I saw my first Challenge Cup final the very next week in London. So I think maybe when Skid Row were in Australia, I was on that trip.
Okay, I did, and I thought they were pretty good. The Bombers had the support in Sydney. I thought they were fantastic, and Girl Monster had the support in Melbourne as well. And I actually saw Skid Row in 91 supporting Guns N' Roses, and Nine Inch Nails were also on the bill at Wembley. Actually, that was a nice little segue. You mentioned you saw Kiss at Lubbock in Texas, which was the first night of the Hot in the Shade tour, and you interviewed Paul Stanley around that time period, and it's a good thing to mention, because you've been unearthing a lot of your old interviews, which were done on audio cassette, and have been playing them on your podcast.
Yeah, my podcast is called White Line Fever. You find it on iTunes. Funnily enough, mate, I talk about the storage room, which I'm obsessed with this week, because I'm going to the northern. I'm going to England for basically 5 months next week, so I've got to get out of a big storage unit into a smaller one. So I've only yesterday found the whole cachet of taped interviews from the late 80s and early 90s. I'm holding one of them now, George's Satellite, and 10 Years After. This one here is Alice Cooper and Bon Jovi. This one here is Hurricane. I don't know how much interest there is, except Kelly Hansen's now the lead singer of Foreigner. That might make it interesting. Great White.
Hurricane had Sarzo and Cavazo brothers in the lineup, didn't they?
I think yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's one here, Great White and Disneyland After Dark, who I recently interviewed Jesper Binder again 25 years later. LA Guns, I think that was done in a hotel room in Portland, Oregon, if it's that one. And Dan Reed Network. And I'm still in touch with Dan Reed. Poison, and how about this one? Metallica / Guns N' Roses on the second side of a D90 cassette. So I'm not sure. The Metallica interview may have been at the Siebel Townhouse in about 1989. I don't think I ever interviewed a member of Guns N' Roses in person. So that would be a phoner with Slash where the tape ran out. That was great.
What about the Georgia Satellites one? Where was that done?
That would have been over the phone with Dan Baird. And I seem to remember I asked him about All Over Bar the Crying off the Land of Salvation and Sin, and about how, I said, is it, and he basically said that it was about his own separation from his girlfriend, and there's a lyric in there about it being, basically her cheating on him. And I actually asked him in this interview whether that is factual, and he says that it is, which is, was pretty, it was pretty amazing for that to be discussed in an interview. So, and I also have an interview actually, and I haven't unearthed this one, Dennis, with Doug Pinnick of King's X, which I did before a sound check at the Astoria in London in 1990 on the same trip I just discussed. And Doug Pinnick spoke about his childhood and some really traumatic stuff. And the interview, the story was never written. The tape, nothing was ever done with the interview. I think I have actually seen it in recent months. So, there's going to be some good episodes of White Line Fever coming up. But there's a lot of editing involved in them, and transferring the tape to a flash drive is a slow, laborious process, and I have to do it in the next week along with 1,000 other things. So you may not hear them for another. You may not hear them till next year.
It's time consuming, but very, very worth it. So 1990, and I could talk about rock all afternoon, which I'm not going to. But so did you see Donington? Did you go to Donington in 1990?
No, mate. I have actually. Overseas festivals are a really new, a really new thing for me. I didn't go to any.
Okay.
Really, in fact, even planning travel around rock concerts is really the last decade for me. It used to be much harder, of course, because now you can get online and you can see who's playing in what city when. And now you can buy tickets online and have them posted to, you can print them out on your computer and all that sort of stuff. But back then you would have to get Kerrang, and so I saw a lot of shows, but I didn't plan a trip around rock. I haven't started doing that until a very recent time. I remember in 1990 seeing a Queensryche show that blew me away. I remember seeing the first Love Hate on tour and interviewing them in 1990, and in the coming months, there is a 25th anniversary show in London, which I'm definitely going to. Although now it's just, sorry. And
part of the Love-Hate interview you just aired on an episode of White Line Fever, didn't you?
Yeah, I did, and I don't think Jizzy Pearl likes it very much because I put it on the
asking the hard questions.
Yeah, I put it on the event page for the show in London I just mentioned. And I got no response. Other people said they liked it, but nothing from him. And I actually did meet Jizzy Pearl again and did an interview for Classic Rock AOR about 3 years ago in Las Vegas, and got on fine with him. So I don't know, maybe just didn't like that interview. Maybe he obviously doesn't like his former bandmates and probably doesn't want to promote the fact that they're no longer with him. I guess, I don't know, whatever,
Well, you've probably been in your storage area the past couple of days. You may not have noticed KISS tickets for the upcoming Australian tour are discounted to nearly half price. Are you aware of that?
You know what? I was aware because there was advertising on advertising on Facebook to that effect, and I have. Okay. I'm actually going to Adelaide on the way out of the country just to see KISS, and I pay full price. So
well, pardon the pun. Pardon the pun, but it speaks volumes. I'm one of those guys. You and I are both long-time KISS aficionados, and as you may or may not know, I went AWOL quite some time ago, and I believe that they should have called it quits after the reunion tour. I'm still going to go. I got one of those half-price tickets for Sydney, and I'm going to enjoy it. But it's telling, isn't it?
Well, I think they've saturated. I mean, they've saturated the market. They're coming here without a new record. How many farewell tours can you have? This tour sort of doesn't really mark anything. And I've gone through periods, Dennis, where I've been uninterested. You know, they played in Sydney, maybe 2 tours ago, and I didn't go. And I'm not so much against them, against Eric and Tommy wearing the makeup as I am about actually assuming the characters, like having Tommy write songs from the point of view of a spaceman. And to me, that's more offensive than just wearing the makeup to me. And equally, you know, like I saw them at Budokan a few years ago, and went, and I sort of, that's a long story, but basically I got into the meet and greet beforehand. I didn't pay for it. Got in the meet and greet beforehand, and Paul was like doing vocal, just mucking around with his voice, singing and stuff in the meet and greet, and then his voice is not so good for the actual show, you know. And I just kind of think, I look at other musicians of his age who, you know, do vocal exercises for 2 hours before shows and don't talk to anyone for a day and stuff like that. And I wonder, and also I think some of the recent things that have been said in the media, you know, like the things that Paul Stanley said about Dee Snider recently. Dee Snider said the sort of things we're talking about now, and Paul Stanley's response was to attack him personally. I thought that's a sign of an insecure person, and you know, I thought it was very ordinary. And obviously, some of the things Gene has said about depression have been really ill-advised. So we are caught in a bit of a conundrum, aren't we? There is our childhood view of this,
you're right,
from our bedroom wall, and then there's what we see now, and they don't match up.
They didn't tour here for 15 years, and now it seems like they come out fairly regularly. I'm going. I think this could be it. I think Stanley, with his health issues, his voice, as you just mentioned. So I'm just glad to go and see him one more time and have a bit of fun with it. I'm looking forward to AC/DC. You're obviously not going to be here. Would you be going?
I saw AC/DC's first show in 6 years at Coachella in April, so that was great.
Oh, that's right.
Setlist was great, and it was, and I really wanted to see my 3 favourite bands in the same calendar year, and I had tickets to Van Halen in Hershey, Pennsylvania, and I travelled there overnight train, and I planned my whole trip around it, and then they cancelled.
Well, mate, I just listened to episode 81 of the White Line Fever podcast. Great stuff, including a bunch of interviews with guys who you hooked up with at the Sweden Rock Festival, Frankie from The Darkness, Rick Brewster from The Angels, and John English, which I really, really enjoyed hearing. And you played Hollywood 7, so can't go wrong there. Yeah.
I knew nothing about John English, actually, until I went to Sweden Rock, and actually we met him in the lounge at the airport. He happened to be on the same flight as me, along with a rugby league talent scout and a rugby league player agent, and ended up having a beer with the 4 of us together before we got on the plane, which is both worlds melded into one. And he knew one of them, actually, and he's a massive Parramatta fan, John English. So, and now it's really weird. I'm learning about John English about 40 years too late. And
you've just started a daily blog, haven't you?
I have, although I haven't done it in 2 days. But it's on whitelineFever.ning.com, and I just, whatever comes up, I try to sort of alternate between rugby league and rock and roll. Like each day I do the other. So and it's on, like, I've got it on RSS feeds as well for various Twitter accounts. So if you get on Twitter, It's pretty hard to avoid it, actually. On Twitter, I'm The Real Stevis, TheRealSteavis.
And if people go to stevemascord.com, they can also find White Line Fever podcast from there?
Yeah. They tend to go on stevemascord.com just before the new one goes up. So the best place to find it, as I'm sure you tell your listeners, is iTunes and to subscribe, because that's the most reliable way to get hold of it. But before we go, I just want to congratulate you on what a great job you're doing with the podcast. And to quote, I don't know, was it Wayne or Garth? I can't remember which one. He said, "I'm not worthy," but I don't feel worthy of being on your show, because you'd forgotten more than I know. So congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. And I love your podcast as well. It's something I listen to regularly. I know that your time is spread out over different pursuits, so it's always great when you get a new show up and running. Mate, thanks for coming on the show today. Can't let you go without choosing a song. An Australian artist, something which is significant to you, or something?
Ooh, no, I just wonder how obscure that we want to be. I actually found a CD the other day which I used to love, and it's a band that used to play at Springfields all the time. We used to leave Springfields when the sun came up, and it was a band called Mr. Universe. There was an EP called Massive Appeal, and there was some, and I think every song on it was really good. I'm just trying to remember. There's 4 songs on it. It was Massive Appeal, Spin, India's Wild, and Not That High. We'll do India's Wild.